I took over as director of the Africa Centre about a year ago, and we've been developing our vision for the future. When we started considering how we're going to actually implement that strategy, we recognised that we were limited somewhat by the constraints of our current building. We were limited in terms of space for new scientists to come. We were limited in terms of how much support and education and training we could undertake from our existing staff and new staff. And we were also constrained in terms of the image of the Africa Centre to the outside world. And it is dealing with all of those issues that led us to realise we needed a refreshing of the infrastructure of the Africa Centre.
The Africa Centre has come a long way since it started off in one or two rooms at the back of the Shell garage in Batuba in the late 90s. And I'm really interested in how the science of the Africa Centre and how the Africa Centre has been organised and how the facilities and buildings mirrored the growth of the Africa Centre and the maturity of the Africa Centre.
We're renovating in a building that's won awards. Steve and Derek from East Coast Architects, they did this fantastic building, and now 12.5 years later, we're re-looking at this building, and that always opens up a whole can of worms and the unexpected.
We were asked to revisit all the interiors. All the original artworks and decor were exactly as we'd left them 10 years ago. And in that context, you have to remember, AIDS was this thing that was feared and unknown. And if you have a look at the artworks now, a lot of the images portray death and funerals and that. There's a lot more hope now. So we're approaching the project and the way we'll finish the building. And I think a lot of the material that you will see, the Data Everywhere project of Cobus's, will tell the story, a much more positive story about the future. There's not so much uncertainty anymore.
The current renovations, I think, are going to have a positive impact because, one, they're going to create more space for current scientists that we have, but I think it will also create an environment for the new coming scientists that we want to attract to the center. But I also believe the employees are going to have a new feel when the center looks different, because it's not only going to create the space, but the environment itself. Even when you come in, you will see a changed center. I think it might contribute as well to the changing environment and the culture within the center itself.
We are quite a unique landmark in the community, and we would like to remain that landmark that I think everyone who comes here would really love to be here, because not only would it be a landmark from a physical perspective, but also a landmark that disperses knowledge with the kind of work that we do. From that perspective, we want to remain a beacon of the research that is quite useful to not only this community, but to the province, to the country. And because we are aspiring to be world-class even on the international stage, we should really see these facilities as a complete beacon of what we are also trying to aspire to be, a world-class institute.
The idea that scientists will come to the Africa Centre and go back to wherever they come from and talk about, wow, that's such a beautiful building, and it's so cleverly done, and it's a beautiful space to work in, and a great place to do research.
Really, for me, the history in terms of the building that the Africa Centre occupied over time really reflected the growth in the organisation, and so I fully expect that this new renovated building will reflect that growth in the organisation as well.
So we are very positive that with these developments, we are on track in terms of making us a status, a beacon for the kind of research that will be looked at worldwide.
I'm very keen that the Africa Centre can reflect itself as a global centre serving the population, as well as being something that the local population is very proud of working with. And that is a key aspiration in terms of developing our infrastructure and rebuilding the Africa Centre.